Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the mid-year book freakout tag. This is such a fun video to film. This is such a fun video to watch. I love watching everybody's videos this time of year, and so I'm going to jump in and I am going to participate this year. I will link all the questions down below. I will try and see if I can find the original creator of this tag, but I feel like it's been years since they've done it. But regardless, it's going to be a fun video, so let's just hop in and chat through all the books. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back, all the things. Let's just hop into the tag video because I have some good books to talk about. I have some things to share today. So let's start with question number one. What's the best book so far in 2023? All right, so this was hard because I actually just made a video on my spring favorites and I had so many good ones. But I would have to say favorite book, like book I enjoyed the most, was The It Girl by Ruth Ware, which totally took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting a Ruth Ware book to be my favorite so far for 2023, but it totally has been. I have really been into thrillers lately, and so I had a lot of good ones to pick from, but The It Girl was just so good, you guys. It's about this woman named Hannah who goes to Oxford, and she's just kind of an ordinary girl, but she gets paired up with a roommate who is kind of extraordinary. She is good at everything. She's beautiful, she's rich, she's smart, all these things. She's definitely the it girl, and her name is April. They form this tight friend group. Everything's going wonderfully until April is murdered, and Hannah is one of the first people on the scene, and so she is kind of highly involved in the investigation and the conviction of a man who then goes to prison. And then there's a dual timeline, and we're in the present day, and there's a question if she was correct in who she helped put away into prison. So it's so good. I don't want to give more away than that. I just know, for me, I really resonated with the character of Hannah. I thought the dual perspective was really interesting. I liked learning about the past as much as I enjoyed being in the present timeline with Hannah as an adult. She's like pregnant. She was just very relatable to me. And then there was just a lot of kind of things going on in suspense, and it was just really good and really entertaining. And I think for me, that's just what I have been needing this first half of 2023. And so yeah, that's my favorite book. Let's move on. I'm looking at the questions here. Best sequel you read so far in 2023. Okay, that was an easy one for me. I just talked about this in my spring favorite, so I will try not to gush too much about it. But this is called The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons. It's the second book in the Chorus of Dragons series, and it's a series that follows a man named Kieran as he kind of grows up, especially in the first book, and things are happening. He discovers that he is actually the bastard son of one of the princes of one of the main houses, but then there's also other people looking for him. There's just all these kind of plot webs that don't make a ton of sense. Some things are concluded in the first book, but this is a 5-book series, so it's definitely laying some groundwork. And then this is the second book in the series, and I really liked it. It followed a character named Janelle, and it painted her story arc kind of alongside what was happening with Kieran. So I just enjoy that kind of a storyline where you're filling in gaps from a previous book. So I really liked this book. So that's the one I'm going to say was my favorite sequel so far for 2023. Next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So that one was easy as well. So this is a new release and I'm currently reading it. So I'm just going to count it. I'm not finished. I'm like a quarter of the way in and I'm really enjoying it. It's called The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. So I have not read any of his other books. I think he was most known for like the Passage trilogy. But I'm enjoying this. This has kind of a utopian, dystopian sort of flair to it, where there's this utopian island that's kind of cut off from society, and they have all these rules and regulations as to how the people live, but they live really good lives. And then there is this man named Proctor who is called a ferryman. That's his profession on this utopian island, and he is part of putting people on the ferry to take them to another island called the Nursery, where they kind of reset, basically, where they get to start their life over again. So that's the general premise. And then things start happening, like there's something funny that happens with his dad, and he starts to learn some things, and it starts to reveal kind of maybe underlying sinister things that are happening on this island. At least that's my understanding, and that's the feeling I'm getting out of like the first 150 pages, and I'm really liking it, you guys. It's really fun. It's totally different than what I normally read. So new release that I'm currently reading. All right, moving on. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. All right, I have two here. I have the Hawthorne Brothers book by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I honestly don't even know what this book is about, but it's kind of the 4th book in the trilogy. So you have the Inheritance Game trilogy that followed a girl named Avery, and there was lots of puzzles and mysteries and riddles that they had to solve. I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun kind of YA mystery type trilogy. Now this is kind of a sequel or maybe the start of a new trilogy. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it starts to follow some of the other brothers, as where the first trilogy really followed Avery's storyline. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it comes out end of August. I even have it pre-ordered. I never pre-order, but I decided to pre-order. So I have that one coming. And then the other book that I'm anticipating, but not as much because I still have some books I need to read to get to that point, but it's Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. So this is book six in the Red Rising series. So it's kind of the second trilogy. I read the first trilogy, the Red Rising trilogy, last year. I loved it. I have yet to start the third trilogy. So yes, I'm anticipating the 6th book, but I'm also just kind of anticipating that whole third trilogy. So I need to pick up the 4th book, which I own, and then the next two, number 5 and number 6, I want to purchase. So I'm really excited for both of those books, mostly because they continue in a world that I'm already very attached to. I love all the characters, and so those are some anticipated books. And now we'll move on to question 5, is book that was the biggest disappointment in 2023. All right, I have 2 on this one as well. We're gonna start with this one because I own it. It's a soft DNF at this point. And that's Babel. You guys, this is one of those things that's been so hyped, and I thought I would like it a lot. It's got like a dark academia premise, but also some magic, so some fantastical elements. You're talking about this Institute for Language, something like that, Institute of Translation. And we're following this main character of Robin as he grew up with this man who kind of took him on as a ward, and he was training him up basically to go to this school. And I feel like I was having a tough time with this book for multiple reasons. It was really slow. That's one reason. And then I feel like I wasn't getting pulled in. Like I feel like I wasn't caring so much about what was happening to him in kind of the broader world where he's learning about some things that are happening. Maybe the school isn't so amazing. There's some things going on, and there's these people who are kind of resisting the general society, not just the institute, but kind of how the society is run by the people in power versus the people that are oppressed, sort of idea. And so then Robin is kind of put in the middle of all of this. And at this point, I just wasn't caring. Like I didn't really want to pick it up. It was very slow. And I'm not sure if maybe it's just the wrong time of year to read it. Maybe I should try it in the fall. So it's a soft DNF, but I was so disappointed. I thought I would just love it because I've been loving fantasy books. I've been loving dark academia, but it's okay. The other one that was a disappointment, I made a whole reading blog about, so I'll link it above. It's the latest Susan Meisner book. Okay, I didn't hate it though. I finished this one. I think I gave it 3 stars. It just wasn't my favorite book. It's called Only the Beautiful. It follows this young woman who lost her family early on, was taken on by kind of her dad's employer, kind of on this big plantation to work in the main house sort of idea. So she becomes a maid at the house of the people who have taken her on as a ward. And then things happen. She ends up pregnant. She ends up being like chucked into this mental institute, and things kind of are a little bit scary there. But there is 2 timelines, not only 2 timelines, but 2 people. So you're following her timeline, and then you're following the plantation owner's sister's timeline as she is involved in World War II and the Nazis and other things that are going on there. I think for me it was just kind of a confusing story. I feel like it could have been 2 books in one. I will link my spoiler-free vlog above, so if you're interested in reading it, please go see it, because you definitely might like it more than me. You might find the subject matter to be more interesting. I found it to be a bit heavy, and then I found the plot line to not coincide as much as I wanted it to. So those are the 2 that I've been most disappointed in. But let's move on. Number 6 is book that was the biggest surprise of 2023. That would be Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I 100% felt like I was giving up on Alice Feeney. Like I did not like her writing style. I did not like her main characters. I felt like they were always a little bit messed up and gritty. And that's just not my favorite. I've learned that's not my favorite. Psychological thrillers aren't my thing. But then I read the premise of Daisy Darker, and it was compared to kind of that And Then There Were None spin-offs, and I've been really enjoying those books. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it and hold it loosely because I knew it was Alice Feeney. But I really liked it, you guys. It's about this whole family, the Darker family, who comes together for the grandmother's 80th birthday party on this like remote island, right? That becomes isolated, like the tide goes out or in whatever, and they can't get to the mainland. And then they're all together and people start dying one by one. You also start learning what happened in the backstory. And I really enjoyed it. I loved the grandmother's character. I loved the main character. I forgot her name. Her name is Daisy. And I enjoyed it. I was very, very surprised. I went in holding it very loosely and I loved it. It was really good. All right, the next one is favorite new author. This was harder for me to nail down because like I said, I feel like I've been really in a thriller mood lately. And so there's been a number of thriller authors that I've really enjoyed. So I'm going to name a few of those. So Ruth Ware, I'm not sure if she's a new favorite, but I'm going to pick up more of her books now. Peter Swanson, I read 9 Lives and I really liked it. So I'm going to pick up more of his books. I think it's like The Kind Worth Killing a lot of people talk about. And then Leanne Moriarty. So I read The Husband's Secret and I really enjoyed it. And so then I picked up some more of her books, which I think I have a book haul coming for you guys. I'm pleasantly surprised by all the new thriller authors that I feel like I can now find some more of their books and see if I like them more. See if they're going to become favorites. I don't want to call any of them favorites yet, but they have a lot more potential than I realized they had. So those are some favorite authors. I think number 8 is New Fictional Crush. I always skip that one. I'm too old for that. And then number 9 is New Favorite Character. That one was hard too, but I'm gonna go with new favorite character I'm gonna go with all 3 of the sisters in this book. So I read Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, and I just really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the sister relationship. So it's kind of cohesively that character of the sisters. I really enjoyed, like this is a story about 3 sisters who grew up in a kind of historical New England, so you're talking kind of around the time of like witch trials and things like that. And they grew up in a family that had some like history of witchcraft, but they all kind of walked away from it as children because things happened and they are estranged from each other. And in this book, they start to come back together and they start to mend those relationships, and then they stand together against some bad stuff. So it was really good, and I really enjoyed their relationships and how that progressed and how their characters grew in this story. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. So that's one of favorite characters. Okay, you guys, book that made me cry is the next one. This book. Oh, right. I haven't read too much historical fiction because I can't take all the emotion of historical fiction right now, but this one was so good. This is more on the YA side of historical fiction, which probably helped out. It's called They Went Left by Monica Hesse. It's so good. It's about this girl who post-concentration camp has to restart her life, but during her whole experience of the concentration camp and going in with her family and being split up and most likely losing like her parents and grandparents and things like that, she was able to stay in contact with her little brother and make him a promise that she was going to find him after the war. And that's what this book is about, is her being released and then trying to find her brother. And it is so good. Like, I feel like the author did an excellent job of trying to portray the damage that happened to somebody who was put in that situation. Even though she's released, like she's not in a concentration camp anymore, there is a lot of healing that still has to happen. And you just kind of watch her make these decisions and do these things as she's searching for her brother. And it's really good. It's really sad and it pulls at your heartstrings, but it's so good. All right, so that one made me cry, but I think the next book is What Made Me Happy. So this isn't like laugh out loud happy or like anything like that, but I was deeply touched by this book. So this is a memoir book called The Beauty and the Breaking by Michelle Harper. I really liked her story. So it really followed this woman who just finished up like her residency, and she was moving to, I believe, Philadelphia to start kind of her practice as an ER doctor. She's African American. She was going to be married to one of her fellow classmates, and then that all fell through. And so she's recently divorced, moving to a new city to start a new job. And this book really kind of dives into her processing through all of that, as well as her processing through some of her cases and the hard cases and the things that taught her as she's like healing, as she's just gaining perspective. And it was just really encouraging and beautiful, and I guess it made me happy. I don't know if happy is the right word for it, but I really enjoyed it. So that's the next one. And then we only have a few more. I love this tag. All right, next one is number 12. It says, favorite book to film that you've seen this year. So I took this as a movie I've seen, and I probably should have read the book, and it's been on my list for so long, but I just finally watched Dune. I watched the movie because I've been like, oh, I want to read the book before I watch the movie. And my husband's just like, I can't wait for you anymore. We're just going to watch the movie. And so we watched it, and I really enjoyed it. And actually that might help me want to pick this book up more, because I feel like, yes, the movie is confusing in so many ways as to kind of what's going on and who the big people groups are. And there's this desert island of Arrakis, and people are kind of fighting over it. And then there's these sand people and the sandworms, and there's this new group of people who take over the planet because the emperor ordered them to. All of these scenes that are happening in the movie. And now I just want to pick up the book and actually read the book. Number 13 is most beautiful book that you have been bought this year. This one, oh my gosh, I think this is so pretty, you guys. It's The Embroidered Book by Kate Hartfield. It says 1768, two queens with a powerful secret will enchant the age. So this is about Marie Antoinette, and I always forget if it's her friend or her cousin or her sister or something like that. And they both marry like powerful people, like the King of France and things like that. But yet they have this childhood bond, and they have some history where there is a little bit of magic, I've heard, but it's mostly historical, like it's historical fantasy. But I think this book is so pretty, so pretty. So that's my most favorite book I've acquired. And then the last one is, I think, what books I want to make sure I read. First on my list is I want to get back into Robin Hobb. And so I read the last trilogy, Ship of Magic, last summer when we went on our big vacation. Like we have to drive like 16 hours, and these books are all on Scribd. And so I want to start this next trilogy. And the next trilogy is called the Tawny Man Trilogy. We go back to Fitz. And the first book is Fool's Errand. And so I'm excited to get back into Fitz's world and pick back up his storyline from where we left off at the end of the Farseer trilogy. I also want to get to the third book in the Course of Dragon series. Like I said, I'm just really, really enjoying this series. I have started too many series, to be honest. I have started too many, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to pick the ones that I'm really enjoying. And right now, it's this one. So I want to get back into this world where it left off after The Name of All Things, which I already talked about. So this is number 3. I want to get back into this. And then the third book I want to read is the new Riley Sager. You know, I feel like Riley Sager, people go so many different directions on it. I've mostly enjoyed his books. It's been a few that I've been like, it could have been better, but I still really enjoy it. I even enjoyed The House Across the Lake more than most people did last summer, but I love the fact that he puts out a new book every summer. I'll put a picture of what the new one's called, but I felt like it was, again, kind of an isolated house sort of situation. So I think it sounds really good, and I'm excited to hop into it. So anyway, that is what I have for this video, you guys, and my mid-year book freak out tag. I would love to hear your guys' answers to this. If you have a channel, link it down below so I can go check it out. But if you don't, just kind of answer some of these questions for me, because I think it's really fun. It's fun to kind of reflect on what's happened so far, and I can't believe it's midway through the year, you guys. It's halfway through 2023. And so, yeah, that's what I have. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to. And otherwise, you guys, I'll see you in the next book video. All right, take care.